You will have the opportunity to ask your questions to a representative of the Office of the Prosecutor, to the representatives of the defense, as well as to the representatives of the victims, and also to the registrar. You will have, they will give you a statement of about 5–10 minutes, and you will have the possibility to ask your questions for about 20 minutes. We'll have to be very strict with the time because, as you know, there is a status conference in the courtroom and they are resuming at about 2. We need some time to ensure that we finish here before the hearing starts. It is maybe relevant for you to know that this press conference is going to be streamed through the website of the court. So I'm going to give now the floor to the registrar, Mr. Herman von Hebel. If you have any questions on how to spell the names of the participants, you can find them on the table. Thank you. Mr. Registrar.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And first, of course, welcome to the court today. It is a great pleasure for me that there is so much interest amongst journalistic groups and others in order to see that tomorrow we will get with a very historic trial started here at the court. For the trial, for the ICC, this is a very important case, but I think for everyone who has been following the case so far, of course, I think what will happen in the next couple of days and months ahead will be of great importance for international justice, for the victims of the crimes that have been committed during the elections a number of years ago in Kenya, but of course also for the accused persons, for the victims who participate, for civil society, and for the population in Kenya. I think it is that perspective that drives us always in organizing our work. The Rome Statute, as you know, was established and was agreed upon in 1998 in order to fight impunity, in order to ensure that victims of serious crimes have a voice in the court, that people in the country will see justice being delivered, and of course that it is all being done against very high standards of international justice that also fully respects the rights of accused persons. For us, therefore, it is absolutely important that we will show throughout this case, as with all other cases before the court, that proceedings are fair, that proceedings are transparent, and that both the prosecutor and the defense and also victims participating will have appropriate time and adequate time first to prepare, but also to present relevant evidence in order for the judges by the end of the day to determine upon guilt or innocence of any accused persons. And the record of this court and the records of other courts and tribunals of an international nature have shown that guilt is not presumed. Innocence is the presumption on which judges work. And it is that presumption that will carry through also in this particular case. Trials, and that is often a criticism of international tribunals, take a long time. Often people are saying that justice is slow. I would not agree with that. I don't think that justice is slow. I think that justice is a very careful process, and that it therefore will take adequate time and really sufficient time to make sure that parties really have the time to present the evidence, for the prosecutor to be able to present her evidence, but also for the defense to be able to challenge that evidence and to present whatever they think is necessary that will serve the interests of their own clients. This work cannot be done without the cooperation of the country itself concerned, without the cooperation of Kenya. And as the court has repeatedly been saying, we do see that the accused persons have so far continued to work and to work closely with the court in order to ensure that preparations were on track and also that the trial is able to get started tomorrow. In that respect also, and in a more wider context, we know and we are of course very much aware of the fact that the start of this trial has led to a lot of discussion and political discussion in Kenya. We've recently seen, of course, discussions going on in Parliament leading to a motion to withdraw from the ICC statute. Of course, for the court, that is a matter of grave concern, not because of the fact that Kenya, as a sovereign state, would not be entitled to do so, but because of the fact that the fundamental principle underlying our ICC statute, the fight against impunity, that this would simply be a wrong message in that respect. We believe that once states have accepted to become a state party, that they should stay within the system, they should work with the system, with the court, that other states parties work closely together in order to make sure that the court can effectively function. And of course that we would rather see more states becoming a state party rather than that states parties were to withdraw. But obviously by the end of the day, that is a sovereign political decision by a state, and any state of course is entitled to do so. However, that being said, at the very same time, it is very clear that any decision for a withdrawal will not have any effect whatsoever on the cases brought before the court so far. There are procedures in the Rome Statute that clearly define how any decision to withdraw would further be impacting on the work. But for our side, the procedure that is laid out shows that it is only upon an official notification of the state after the internal decision-making has come to an end, a notification to the United Nations that has to take place, and only 1 year later the withdrawal will become effective. However, and that is already clearly laid out in the statute itself, this does not have an effect on any ongoing investigations. It is only that for the future, any other crimes that in the future may or could have been committed in Kenya would not be subject to the jurisdiction of the court. And there again, that is why we hope that Kenya will not continue with this process because of the fact that we don't think that that is the right message. The victims of the future should not feel that they are without redress to this court and to international justice. I would like to finish off here with my comments, and of course, as has been indicated, I'm more than happy to take any questions from your side. Thank you very much.
Okay, we open the floor now for questions to the registrar. You are kindly invited to give your name and the media you are working for. And please, only one question and a short one. We don't have much time. Questions, please?
Thank you. My name is Nzao Musau.
Just a minute, wait for the microphone.
Thank you. My name is Nzao Musau from Kenya, from Nairobi Star, from the Star publication. My question is on the political discussions which you have talked about. One of the discussions which has been going on in the last few days is that the president has made it clear that there is no way he can be in the country here at the ICC together with his deputy. That is, he doesn't see that happening. So we just wanted to get a clarification on the schedule of the two cases. Is there at any point in time where the president and the deputy president of Kenya will be away at the same time? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would imagine, and I do agree that that is very important. I do agree that that is a very important question. I think there has been some information on our website that would create the impression that both the president and the vice president would have to be here at the same time in The Hague. However, the matter is still with the judges. That is not a call, of course, for the registrar. The judges are the ones who drive the organization of the trial, and it is for the judges to look into the specific question as to whether or not the president and the vice president would be required to be at the court in The Hague at the very same time. I'm not able to give a final answer to that because I know that there is an issue that is before the judges, and we simply have to respect the independent and impartial decision of the judges to determine how they will organize the case. So far, we do know that the case for Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang is scheduled to get started as of tomorrow and will be planned to go on for a couple of weeks at least. Anything after that is subject to further decision making by the judges.
Please, sir.
My name is Hussein Mohammed from Citizen TV Kenya. Just a follow-up on that. So if it happens that they are here at the same time, and the President Kenyatta has already said he will not be here at the same time with Deputy President Ruto, what happens then?
That is a very what-if question, and I think it would be dangerous to further elaborate on that, because again, I think it is for the judges to determine how they want to organize their work, to what extent issues of ensuring the presence of the president and the vice president in Kenya is an issue that they should take into consideration from the perspective of organizing the respective trials. We know that the trial of Mr. Kenyatta is planned to get started on November 12th. We're still a bit away from that, and again, I would simply wait until we have a further decision by the judges before we can get into this question. It is a what-if question, and I don't think it would be wise to follow up on what could still be seen as a hypothetical situation. But of course, it is for the judges to take that final call.
Here is second roll.
My name is Zubeda Kome. I work for Kenya Television Network in Kenya. Is it true that ICC is not willing to cooperate with Kenya as Kenya is right now? Because most of the politicians feel like you want to have it your way. You're not giving them a voice.
I would be concerned if that is the perception. The bottom line is that the court is functioning on the basis of the ICC statute. The rules are very clearly defined in the statute. There are, apart from the provision of the statute itself, rules of procedure and evidence that have been elaborated by all states parties together. And I mean, in those negotiations, and I've been a part of it myself, there have been experts of many countries, including, of course, also Kenya and others, who recognize what it takes in order to ensure fair and effective trials. And the higher standards of international justice have been taken into consideration. It is those norms that drive the judges in their decisions. That is not about having it our way. It is simply about the need and the obligation of the judges, and of course also the parties, to fully observe the norms that are laid down in the statute that ensure a fair trial, in which also the position of an accused and of any accused, regardless of status and position, is fully respected. Thank you.
There, the fourth.
Hello, Sophie van Leeuwen, Radio Netherlands Worldwide. So has it been confirmed yet that Ruto is on his way? Will he come? And what if he will not? Would that harm the ICC, for example?
I'm not aware of the travel schedule of Mr. Ruto. We are all assuming, and of course at this very moment a status conference is ongoing. The final decisions by the judges, of course, are still to be made. I would simply assume for the time being that we adhere to the schedule that has been set out before. And from our perspective, we also therefore simply assume that Mr. Ruto will be present present here. Again, going into what-if questions, I think we should take it by the time that such scenarios may come up. But as I said in my introduction, we have always seen a full cooperation by the accused persons. And from our side, we assume that that will continue to be the case. Thank you.
More questions? There, the last one.
Thank you. My name is Duncan Haimba from K24, Nairobi, Kenya. Maybe wanted a question that probably give us more clarity. The perception that this is a political court and it's playing political games, and the point in question is the twists towards the nearing of the confirmation, the trial hearings. One, at some point, the deputy president is told that he could only attend the opening trial, and maybe whenever he's needed, he will come, then maybe the closing. Then there's communication that comes that, no, you'll have to attend the trial hearings fully. And then again, within a span of a day, the court decides that all the trials will be held at the seat of the court. And then there's that tentative program that indicates at some point from November, when the deputy president's case will be going on, that is the same time the president will be here. And that is the perception, and maybe that is sort of leading the revolt, particularly by the African states. So maybe to make it clear, because people are looking at this as the shifting of goalposts, maybe the perception that it could be a political court playing political games. What do you say?
Thank you very much. I don't think I would be sitting here if I would think that this is a political court, because I believe in international justice, and I've worked in a number of other tribunals and courts of an international nature, and I've always been driven by that principle of international justice. The different decisions that have been taken in relation to the question as to whether an accused should at all times be present during the trial procedures is something that can easily come up in this court. That has also been the case in other tribunals and courts. I recall from my period in the Special Court for Sierra Leone that also one of the accused persons over there refused during the trial to be present in the proceedings, although he was detained within the court itself. He participated later in the appeal case. These situations may appear and may occur. They can happen on the international level. They can happen on the national level. What we see here is that the trial chamber had taken a decision which would allow Mr. Ruto not to be present during all parts of the proceedings. However, that was appealed by the prosecutor's office. The appeals chamber has not yet taken a final decision on that matter, but has given substantive effect to the decision of the trial chamber. So as long as the appeals chamber is not taking a final decision, the ordinary principle that an accused is present throughout every single stage of the proceedings continues to apply. For me, these are clear examples of how the detailed rules and procedure and evidence that have been elaborated inside and in connection with the ICC statute are a very strong instrument. Parties have the right, both the prosecution and the defense, to ask for the further interpretation and application of those rules. Any accused person is entitled to ask not to be present. Any prosecutor is entitled to appeal. These are legal procedures in my case and show the strength of an internal legal system where judges come to decisions and where appeals chamber is able to take the final and make a final call on that. And of course on that one we still have to wait the final decision by the appeals chamber. Thank you.
We are taking the last two questions. I saw here two hands. Okay, three. I propose that we take them all together and sure. Then we close the participation of the registrar, please.
Thank you very much. My name is Rose Makena Mushiri, Ambassador of Kenya. Thank you very much, Mr. Registrar. You know we have been working together.
Yeah.
I can say confidently that Kenya has behaved very well. in these matters, and the accused also have defended themselves, and their lawyers are here. My only question to you, and especially in the light of the recent developments, is what is so urgent that ICC, which is a member state, which is members join voluntarily and all that, why would ICC continue and wish that they can go on, not considering whatever damage they're doing to an important member state like Kenya? And I'm not speaking for the indictees, I'm speaking for Kenya now. Will the ICC continue at any rate, whatever the damage that it may do to Kenya internally? Thank you very much. And especially to have a hearing in the morning for the Deputy President and another one in the afternoon for the President. Kenya is asking. Thank you very much.
You've expressed your hope that the accused will continue cooperating as they've done before, and I believe as most of the decisions by the judges have been informed by that cooperation. Would the decision by Kenyan Parliament to withdraw from the Rome Statute be interpreted by the court as non-cooperation for the accused, given that, of course, this is a parliament where the majority are supporters of the accused? Just seeking a clarification.
Thank you. My question is more or less what Musembi was asking. It's like he read my mind. But now that the prosecutor is here. My name is Francis Gashuri. I work for Citizen TV Kenya.
Thank you.
Musembi has asked part of the question that I wanted to ask. And now that the prosecutor is here, and the process of pulling Kenya out of the Rome Statute is ongoing, and most likely by the sheer look at the numbers and how the matters are going on in the two chambers of parliament, most likely that motion will succeed. Is there a likelihood that the prosecutor will now probably apply for a review of the conditions for bail for the three suspects, now that probably the withdrawal may look like setting the ground for non-cooperation?
Sir, I would propose that question that you will address it to the prosecutor, who is taking the floor immediately after. She's here and she's listening to your questions, so I'm sure that you will get an answer. The registrar will answer the first two questions as well as the first part of your question. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I would agree. The last question, and I see the prosecutor sitting there and waiting to soon take over, so I'm more than happy to leave that question to her, obviously. As to the first two questions, I fully agree that the cooperation, as I said before, has been very positive between Kenya and the ICC. And from our side, we expect and we hope, of course, that cooperation will continue to take place. On the issue of the presence of the accused and whether or not they can and be expected to be here at the same time, as I mentioned before, that is really a decision by the judges. As a registrar, I would hesitate to go into the deliberations of the judges and fully respect the independence and impartiality of the judges. But at the same time, I would also think that holding this trial and the start of the first trial tomorrow, and then hopefully the other trial in November, should not be seen as an issue of damage to Kenya. Of course, international justice is a delicate matter, and political discussions, of course, always go and continue to take place around such judicial proceedings. From our perspective, from the court's perspective, and from my position as registrar, for me what is the most important is to fully serve how the states parties have elaborated the Rome Statute, how they have in that process made sure that there is a delicate and good balance between the rights and obligations of the court and the rights and obligations of states parties, including situation countries. I do believe that our work is there in order to ensure that the two accused or the three accused persons will receive a fair trial, that also the victims will be heard, and that this trial will lead to bringing out the truth as to who has been responsible for the crimes that have been committed during the election period. That, in my view, is not a question of damage, that's a question of gain, that's a question of profit for everyone living in Kenya. The crimes that were committed, we've all seen the video clippings on television, etc., are simply crimes that should not go unpunished. And whoever is responsible for that, that of course is for judges to determine. And it's also for judges to determine how we get into the process in order to get there. But if I'm convinced that if the ICC continues to listen carefully to the interest of the prosecutor, to the interest of the accused persons, that they will be able to deliver justice in such a way that also Kenya can, by the end of the day, look proudly back to this and ensure that this trial has assisted in bringing justice to Kenya. The final question about the withdrawal and non-cooperation, I would see them as two different issues. In my view, when we talk about cooperation, we're talking about the obligation of Kenya to, and the obligation of course, also of the accused to fully cooperate with the court. That is based under the existing system by which Kenya is an important member of the Assembly of States Parties, is an important state party. It is that cooperation that is most important for us as a judicial institution. As I said before, a decision on withdrawal is not an issue of non-cooperation. This case is not determined by a decision to withdraw. That is a political decision by a sovereign state, which will be fully respected, but probably equally regretted by any other states parties and certainly also by the court. But it is not, in my view, an issue of non-cooperation. That is being determined by the rules that continue to apply in this case because of the positive decision that Kenya took in the past to become a state party. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Registrar. I would like to invite the representative of the Office of the Prosecutor to sit at the table. Prosecutor Mrs. Fatou Bensouda, you have the floor.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. At the close of 2007, the people of Kenya suffered through one of the most violent episodes in Kenya's history. During that period, more than 1,000 people had their lives taken from them. Over 3,000 people were brutally maimed, while others were sexually violated. Hundreds of thousands of families were forced to flee their home in panic. The crimes that were inflicted on the people of Kenya during that period deeply shocked the conscience of humanity. These are crimes under the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my mandate as the prosecutor of the International Criminal Court to investigate and prosecute those who I believe to be most responsible for those crimes, irrespective of their status. Your presence here today signifies the importance that you attach to justice for the victims of these crimes. The start of this trial is a milestone for the victims of these crimes, many who remain in IDP camps to this date. It has been a long and difficult road since 31st March 2010, when my office started investigations in Kenya. We have had to overcome many serious obstacles, and finally, the process of unveiling the truth is upon us. I wish to pay special tribute and thank all our witnesses, the courageous men and women who have risked their lives and the lives of their loved ones to see justice done. They have resisted persistent threats and offers of huge bribes for the sake of justice. Our witnesses, we salute you for your bravery and for the supreme sacrifices you are making for justice. We assure you of our support. Your safety and security has been and will remain our #1 priority. Let me also take this opportunity to thank my staff who have worked tirelessly to meet the deadlines set by the judges for this trial. Thank you all for your hard work and your dedication to the cause of justice. When the trial against Mr. William Ruto and Mr. Joshua Sang begin, we will present to the judges the evidence that we have gathered during our investigations. In doing so, we will not only be seeking to assist the judges to uncover the truth, but we will also be sending a clear message to would-be perpetrators that my office will relentlessly pursue anyone alleged to be responsible for the commission of such crimes. Ultimately, it will be the judges who will assess the evidence and decide on the guilt or innocence of Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang. Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang are presumed innocent until proven guilty. Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang will be given every opportunity to challenge the evidence my office will present in support of the allegations against them. On all accounts, this will be a fair process, overseen by 3 independent and impartial judges, at the end of which they will deliberate and decide on all issues presented to them and determine the outcome for both Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang. Let me remind everyone that the Office of the Prosecutor only began to investigate the 2007-2008 post-election violence after Kenyan officials themselves acknowledged that domestic efforts to establish a special tribunal had failed. The government of Kenya chose to commit Kenya to the ICC process. Now justice must run its course. Today, I wish to reassure the people of Kenya that contrary to what has now become a rallying call for those who do not wish to see justice for the victims of the post-election violence, our cases have never been against the people of Kenya. My cases have never been against any tribe in Kenya. These cases are about the individual criminal responsibility of Mr. Ruto and Mr. Sang. Let us also make this clear. My mandate to pursue justice includes taking all necessary measures to protect the integrity of these proceedings. Corruptly influencing witnesses, obstructing or interfering with the attendance or testimony of witnesses, retaliating against witnesses, and interfering with the collection of evidence are all serious offenses under the Rome Statute that carry a maximum of 5 years imprisonment. Rest assured that my office's efforts to track down those responsible for these crimes remain undeterred. In conclusion, I cannot and will not forget the innocent Kenyans who are no longer alive to tell their story. I will not forget those who did live to tell their stories of survival and who have waited too long for justice. These survivors are crying out for more justice, not less. I will continue to fight for justice, the justice that they deserve. I thank you for your presence.
Okay, the floor is open for questions. Okay, start here.
Thank you once again. My name is Nzao Musa from the Star newspaper. I think in your presentation you made a categorical statement that witnesses have been bribed, and I think you have said that severally before. Have you taken any measures? Have you applied to the court, or have you investigated the matter and established exactly who is threatening witnesses? And also on the same measure, we have learned now that even victims are now withdrawing from the case, aside from the witnesses. What measures are you going to take to ensure that all victims and witnesses remain as part of the proceedings until the very end? Thank you very much.
As it is collected, regarding the issue of interference of witnesses, tampering with witnesses, I think I have several times said that this is ongoing. It is organized, it is happening. But one thing you also have to note is that those who are committing these crimes are going to great lengths to cover their identity. And the Office of the Prosecutor has continued to collect information to be able to know who these people are, and at the appropriate time, this information and evidence will be presented to the judges.
There is another question there.
Andreas Reuter, German Public Radio. Madam, if I may ask a question on a separate matter, the world is expecting a military strike against Syria, but the voices are louder to refer the situation in Syria to your court, to your office. Are you standing ready to investigate the situation in Syria, and if there were a mandate, and how frustrated are you that there is no mandate?
Repeatedly said already that the Office of the Prosecutor does not have jurisdiction in Syria, because Syria is not a state party and there is no referral from the United Nations Security Council. As such, the office cannot intervene in Syria.
There is second row, please.
Thank you. My name is Boni Musambi from Kenya State Broadcaster KBC. Your office has been accused of also trying to coach the witnesses. What say you about that?
These are serious allegations that are levied against my office, which is not true. I want to emphasize that this is not true. There is no reason for the office to try to organize and coach witnesses to come and give evidence. The mandate of the office is to present a case based on the truth. And we are trying to uncover the truth and to present it before the judges. There has never been, there is no issue, there will never be an issue of coaching or organizing witnesses to come and present evidence. I want this to be clear.
I'm Nandem Barasa from West FM Bungoma.
Sorry?
Okay. There is a feeling that this issue of witnesses pulling out of the cases weakens the cases against the accused. What's your take on that?
As far as the Office of the Prosecutor is concerned, the case will start tomorrow and we will start to present the evidence that we have. I do not want to discuss whether the case is weak or it's not weak now. This will be done when the evidence is presented before the judges. They will make a determination whether the case is weak or not.
Okay, thank you.
Mike Corder from the Associated Press. Mr. von Hebel mentioned the importance of transparency. Can you tell us, given the problems with witnesses, whether a great deal of this trial will go on behind closed doors? Will we be able to see justice being done?
I believe the court will try as much as possible to have the evidence presented in public. But at the same time, you need to understand that witnesses are going to great lengths to present, give us evidence to present before the judges. And their safety and protection is also of paramount importance. And the court, I am sure, is not going to do anything that will jeopardize that safety and protection. And I think that the judges will determine the necessity of providing, for instance, in-court protective measures when the witnesses come to testify.
Thank you.
Hussein Mohammed, Citizen TV Kenya. Still on the witness issue. You're saying those who interfere with witnesses go to great lengths to cover their identity.
Yes.
So from a layman's point of view, then where are you getting confirmation that indeed they're being interfered with? Is it from the witnesses' word of mouth?
You know, I am not going to, of course, disclose the investigative activities that the office is conduct or will continue to conduct regarding how we get our sources, how we get our information from sources. I can only tell you that we are collecting information and we are receiving information, and we are sure that the interference is happening with the witnesses. We are quite sure about that.
We have another question here, sir, please.
Felix Olik, Standard Newspaper, Kenya. My question is this: the commencement of the trial has been previously postponed for a number of times, and victims are saying that justice is not being done because justice delayed, justice denied. The accused right now are saying that they cannot have their trials running at the same time. Would you be contesting that request of the accused?
I think the registrar has answered this question. The scheduling of the trial is for the judges to decide. And I think what has happened so far regarding the postponement of the trials has all been part of the legal proceedings, you know, that is taking place before the judges. I don't want to go on to repeat the fact that the judges had determined, for instance, in the case of Mr. Ruto, that he should not be present, which I have appealed, and the judges have, that appeal is still pending. It has not yet been decided. But in the meantime, the appeals chamber had said that the trials should continue and that Mr. Ruto should be present at all times. And until a determination is made by the appeals chamber later on, Mr. Ruto will continue to be present.
We are taking 3 more questions.
My name is Rita Tinina. I work for KTN in Kenya. 2 questions. Reports just in the last couple of minutes that one more witness has withdrawn from the case. Is that the case? Second, once the trial starts tomorrow, in the initial first 3 weeks, is the Deputy President required to be in The Hague permanently, or after, for instance, on Friday, the first week, he can fly back to Kenya on Friday night, come back on Sunday night in time for... Is he required to be here for the straight 3 weeks?
I am not able to determine that. All our intention is that the trial starts tomorrow, and that we will proceed as the judges schedule what we are supposed to do. So I think if the case is not proceeding or if the case is proceeding will depend on what the judges decide, and of course requiring Mr. Ruto's present or not.
My name is Catherine Achenga from Kenya Broadcasting Corporation. Given the rate at which witnesses are withdrawing and intimidation, do you still believe you have a strong case to push through with this prosecution?
I don't want to, again, start speculating on how strong my case is or how weak it is. I have witnesses. I'm going before the judges. I'm going to present my case. The judges will determine that in the end. But I don't want to sit here and say my case is weak or my case is strong because the witnesses are pulling out. We intend to present the evidence that we have before the judges, starting from tomorrow.
KTN Kenya. I believe this is the first time where a sitting president and a deputy president, a sitting deputy president are appearing before the ICC. How are you going to treat them? Will you accord them the VIP status, or they are just like any other suspect?
As far as the Office of the Prosecutor is concerned, these are persons who are accused of crimes, serious crimes, before the International Criminal Court. And my office will treat them like any other person who's accused of these crimes. And we will proceed accordingly. I have said in my statements that trials and the presentation of my evidence will proceed irrespective of the status of the accused persons.
Okay, we are taking the two last questions, this lady here and this lady here. And I'm afraid that we have to close. I take in any case the opportunity to let you know that if you have requests for interviews, not for now, but for in the future, you can canalize them through the office of the press offices of the Office of the Prosecutor and the Registry. You can find the contact details behind. Please.
Hi, Anna Holligan, BBC. Initially, the judges ruled that Mr Ruto wouldn't have to be present for the trial, but you argued against that and the appeal is ongoing. Why is it so important for you, despite Mr Ruto saying he needs to be in Kenya to allow him to run the country when Mr Kenyatta is not present, why is it so important that the Deputy President for you must be here in The Hague?
You have to understand that we are not proceeding with these cases based on the fact that Mr. Ruto is the Deputy President. Mr. Ruto is a person who has been charged with serious crimes before the ICC. And in the eyes of the Office of the Prosecutor, at least, he is like any other person who is accused of these crimes before the court. And the statute, what we have argued for our appeal, is that the statute requires that a person who is being tried before the ICC needs to be continuously present during the trial. And we are strictly going by what the statute and the rules of procedure and evidence have said.
I work with the Nation Media Group in Kenya. I have two questions. One, we have a situation where in Kenya, the president has even told the people that the constitution of Kenya is supreme, and there is no way that the constitution will allow him to be away from the country at the same time with the deputy president. And here the international laws take precedence, so which is the way to go? What would happen in that case if they would be required to be in court at the same time? And secondly, given the political situation back home and with the withdrawal motion that was passed by members of parliament, is that a signal for you as a sign of non-cooperation? And would that lay the ground then for your office to substitute the summonses with arrest warrants, for instance? Thank you.
I think both of these questions have already been treated by the registrar, but just to say that their presence here at the same time is a matter for the judges to decide. It's not the Office of the Prosecutor that can make that decision. And I think that the judges, at the appropriate time, will take the appropriate decision. I cannot say anything about that. I believe your second question was about the vote. As I think also, again, as the registrar has said, these are two separate issues. You know, what should be clear is that Kenya is still part of the International Criminal Court, still, and that the cases that are before the court are not affected by the vote that has been taken. And I also believe that there are certain legislative steps that still need to be taken before even Kenya can pull out of the ICC, if that is what they wish to do. But even if Kenya were to pull out today from the ICC, the cases are not affected. And for me, this is my concern, running the cases.
We are taking the last question from the ambassador.
Thank you very much, Madam Prosecutor. My last question is actually a question that you did not answer from one of the people here. The judges do listen to the prosecutor and the defense as well before they make a decision. You were asked, will you object or would you oppose an application by the defense to have a schedule that allows the President of Kenya and the Deputy President of Kenya to attend court at different times here at the Hague? Or would you, if it came up, consider it and give it as a consent before the judges? Yeah. Thank you very much.
This is a question to, of course, speculate about the future. It has not happened. When it does happen, my office will take all the considerations into account and will take the appropriate decision.